So, Birds of Prey and its absurdly long title. I know some people really like this film and some really despise it, but I think it's just mediocre. Now, it's fine if people disagree with me. I'm not trying to say that people who think differently from me are wrong. Who am I? I hate everything?
Now, I really don't get much pleasure in saying this, but if you think that Suicide Squad is a well-rounded, great piece of cinema, you are wrong. You are very wrong.
I could go on about how this film is more concerned with being fun and not trying to have any depth, but that's a problem I have with modern comic movies as a whole. I could talk about Harley wanting to eat an egg sandwich and how this is just dumb, but I just see it as a waste of time. I could talk about the good things, like the energy, performances, and visuals. Instead, I'm gonna talk about why this is a horrendous adaptation of the one and only Birds of Prey, for there are so many inaccuracies in this film when compared to the comics, to the point where I'm convinced that the director, Kathy Yan, did not want to make a Birds of Prey film, but someone held a gun up to her head and forced her to make it a Birds film anyway. So sit back and relax as I pull my hair out while trying to analyze this film. This is why Birds of Prey is a terrible adaptation. So first of all, let's talk about the character designs. They are crap. Now you might be thinking, oh, but why are you nitpicking? But here's the thing, nitpicks are not inherently bad, as long as they make sense, are true, and hold weight. Not only that, but if you're going to make a movie based off of comics, you might as well have it resemble the source material, which is something that Birds of Prey sucks at. If your film doesn't resemble the source material, then what is the point of basing it off of pre-existing work? You might as well create a completely new story if it cannot resemble another one. Now, one thing I cannot stand nowadays is how Harley Quinn's design changes pretty much every few seconds. I hated Hooker Quinn in Suicide Squad, and I hate the look of Hot Topic Quinn in this movie. Seriously, when does Harley wear gold and pink outside of this film? Never! Really, the only designs that work for me are the original animated series design, which actually fits the clown motif because it looks like a jester, and the Rebirth design used in the Harley Quinn cartoon series because it resembles the original design while still looking like a reinvention of sorts, which works with her breakup with the Joker. But Harley's design is far from the worst design in the film because Black Canary's design is trash. In the comics, Black Canary has a simple design of being a blonde chick who wears a biker jacket and sometimes fishnets. It's a simple design, so it really shouldn't be hard to adapt. Really, the only mainstream versions of Black Canary that don't use this design are the ones on the show Arrow, but those still work because they see Black Canary in a black costume. I really shouldn't have to explain why that works. Meanwhile, this version of Black Canary is one of the blandest designs I have ever seen in a comic-based film, as it depicts Black Canary in a golden tank top. Guys, it's Black Canary, not golden tank top Canary. Where's the biker jacket? Where's the blonde hair? Why is black such a minor color in this design? It's such a simple design, but they couldn't even get it right. Huntress's design in this movie is probably the best one, though that's not saying much. It has the purple and black color scheme of the comic Huntress, but I wish that the costume designers used Huntress's purple mask, which she wears in almost all of her comic appearances. And yeah, I know that Huntress wears it at the end of the film, but it's just not the same. After all, too little, too late. Not only that, but Huntress spends a good amount of her screen time murdering people.
She moves back to Gotham, starts working on that kill list.
So she desperately needs a mask to conceal her identity in order to not get in trouble with, like, cops or something. Cassandra Cain's design is okay, and Renee Montoya's design just looks bland as all heck. You could have at least given her a Gotham City Police Department uniform, seeing as how she is a member of the Gotham City Police Department. Probably one of the worst decisions in terms of design, though, would have to be Black Mask. In the comics and other media, he is always always wearing his mask, sometimes for the purpose of intimidation, other times because the mask was burnt into his skin. But in this film, Ewan McGregor doesn't even put it on until halfway through the movie. From what I've heard, several DC fans couldn't even recognize the characters in the trailers because of how bad the designs are, which is very understandable. I also don't like the look of Gotham City in this film. It's brightly colored, even though anyone familiar with the Batman franchise could tell you how Gotham City is supposed to be much bleaker. But I guess the bright colors of Gotham make some sort of sense because the movie is told through Harley Quinn's perspective. So next, I'm going to talk about the characterization because this movie did some things with the characterization of the characters that I really hate. For starters, in the comics, the Birds of Prey were originally formed because Barbara Gordon, the first Batgirl, needed fighters out there to make up for her injuries because she was paralyzed by the Joker and put into a wheelchair. Granted, you can do Birds of Prey without Barbara, but if you want to respect the source material, you should probably include her in an origin story for the birds. And yes, I know about the rumored Batgirl movie, but that could easily work as a prequel to this movie. Probably the most comic and accurate character was Cassandra Cain. In the comics, Cassie was raised as a killer assassin by two deadly members of a terrorist organization called the League of Assassins. Those members being Lady Shiva and David Cain. She was a gifted fighter, and she doesn't speak because she was never taught how to. This film doesn't do the character justice at all though. She talks a lot, and a major plot point is having Harley protect her after she takes a diamond that belongs to Black Mask.
How'd you get to be here?
The only time where she does something useful is towards the end of the movie, where she tricks Black Mask into holding a bomb. I think that Cassandra Cain in the comics might have been a pickpocket at one point, but that's the only thing she shares with the movie version. Now, changing stuff from the comics is fine as long as it respects the source material. For example, Doom Patrol. In the Doom Patrol comic run by Grant Morrison, the character of Robot Man is sometimes seen with the character of Crazy Jane. He watches over her because Crazy Jane is mentally unstable. The Doom Patrol TV series gives Robot Man a daughter, and he loses contact with her after a terrible accident that ends with his mind in a robot's body. I did a little research, and I couldn't find any information about Robot Man's daughter being in the comics. Anyway, Robot Man still cares for Crazy Jane's mental health, but because he misses her daughter, he starts thinking of Jane as his daughter, mostly because he isn't mentally fine either. Like I said, he was in a terrible accident that separated his mind from his body.
Too bad 3 of us are gluten-free, 12 of us are allergic to peanut butter, and none of us are your daughter!
Doom Patrol, the TV series, makes some changes to the source material, but it's still respectful towards Grant Morrison's run. Birds of Prey just isn't respectful to the comics at all. There are also times where a character doesn't have much to go off of. The thing is, Cain had her own comic series where she became Batgirl because of Barbara Gordon's injuries, and it lasted for over 70 issues, so there is more than enough source material for one film. Not only that, but there have been films based on comic series with even less material to go off of, like the 2 Dark Knight Returns films. The Dark Knight Returns was only 4 issues long, yet it still made for 2 direct-to-video films. So the writers of the Birds of Prey film could have at least tried to incorporate some elements of Cassandra Cain's comics into the movie. With how awfully Cassandra Cain was, part of me wants to say that this movie is on the level of fanfiction, but no, because fanfiction implies that there is some sort of care and passion for the source material. The other members of the Birds aren't much better. Like, the movie only wants to put the bare minimum, which, to be fair, is mostly because most of the focus of the movie is put on Harley Quinn. It remembers how Black Canary is a singer and how Renee Montoya is a somewhat pessimistic cop, but that's about it, really. Not only that, but Canary is a singer in Black Mask's club, which is, yet again, something that wasn't in the comics. So yeah, despite the fact that Black Canary is usually one of my favorite characters,
Roy, you used to treat your body as a temple.
But now...
I really don't have much of a reason to care, because, like I said, most of the focus is on Harley, and she is comic inaccurate. The only character that I feel like was well represented was Huntress. This movie remembered her comic origin, how she wants revenge on the crime lords that murdered her parents, and she does have a comedically angry personality, which fits with the movie's tone. However, that just makes me long for a Huntress movie more. Give it a gritty tone of Joker, recast Mary Elizabeth Winstead because she is talented, put her in a more comic accurate costume, and have the main plot be about the murder of her parents and how that screws her up, and boom, you got yourself a good movie. Unfortunately, Black Mask, the main antagonist, sucks. Granted, I'm not the biggest fan of the character. I haven't read any comics he appears in, but I always interpreted him as an intimidating mud boss meant to be taken seriously, not some eccentric goof like the movie portrays him as. Not only that, but there are some scenes with him that are just really cringeworthy, like when he removes the clothes of one of his female workers, which painted him as a two-dimensional misogynist, and was just one of the cringiest scenes I have seen in a movie in recent memory. Speaking of which, when I went into this movie, I was told that it was about feminism. I was really doubting that, but yeah, this movie does have feminist messages. Like I said, Black Mask is portrayed as a misogynist, and there are some scenes that push the feminism agenda, like Black Canary singing that it's a man's world.
This is the man's world.
Subtlety? What's that? There's also Harley saying that she was the planner behind all of the Joker's schemes and the movie's opening, even though she says stupid crap like claiming that hyenas have several lives. This is even more insulting when the movie straight up admits that she has a PhD, also making the main character a complete idiot in a female empowerment movie just goes to show how bad the writers are. It's kind of like how in the film Joker, the main message was that gamers are oppressed, where here the main message is that women are oppressed. However, Joker works because gamers are actually oppressed, and you cannot change my mind about that. And the thing is, Birds of Prey is not a feminist franchise in the comics. The creator of the franchise itself was Chuck Dixon, but the person that influenced it the most was writer Gail Simone, for she was the main writer for the first two Birds of Prey comic series. Before writing for the comics, Simone had a whole website based on how much she disliked fridging, aka the act of women characters being treated as plot devices rather than actual characters. Wow, it's almost like using female characters doesn't equate to feminism. Who would have guessed that except for anyone who cared about the Birds of Prey franchise? Oh yeah, and remember to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.